All right. I'm trying to finish up the second part of the admin for code quick for today.
What's the topic?
The overall topic, it's kind of like submarines. This is my first time ever doing this thing, but my workplace has like a internal competition or internal thing, I guess. So, um,
Submarines?
yeah, it's like yeah, like calculating values based off submarine inputs. I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking, but
Okay.
yeah. But this one is trying to go through and shoot. One second. I think I'm nearly done. But what did I do with my? How you doing?
I'm spending my early mornings. You ever like get a piece of the architecture wrong?
Ever get the piece of? Absolutely not. No, I'm perfect at all architecture every time.
So
No,
like
obviously.
for every single integration point that has a dependency on code that runs in Azure, I had wrote like this convention, for lack of a better term, where you can specify your service and then the resource of that service, and you can submit a command or a request. Well, some of these services have the same function names, and so there's like ambiguity, and it's been a pain to resolve when I do run into it. I've been running into it for like probably the past 4 months, and each time I run into it, it takes like maybe 3 hours for me to resolve it every single time. Um, and I run into it like probably once every couple of weeks on a
Hmm.
different service. And instead of me like just rewriting it, because if I rewrite it, then I have to rewrite it for like a dozen other services, and I don't want to put in the work. But I know it's the right thing to do, but I'm just trying to get this thing out in the field, and I think it's definitely a form of technical debt that if anybody were to maintain this, I would be paying them unnecessary amounts of money just dealing with trying to work through that piece and them trying to figure out why it doesn't work, stuff like that. So specifically, there's a function key in order for
Mm-hmm.
you to successfully execute an Azure function, and because different um, services, because I have like a dozen different function apps, some of the functions within those apps have the same name and but a different key. And so it'll try to invoke a service using the wrong key. And yeah, so that's what I spent my morning on.
Hmm.
It's bothering me because I know I need to rewrite it, but I don't want to spend the next probably 12 hours going through all my services, rewriting it. I want to get this in the field. I want to get it tested. And then once I get it tested, I want to I want to observe people on electric bikes delivering equipment to to customers on the beach that want to enjoy themselves. I just want to get this thing done, man.
So this is where you take out technical debt then for real. Like
Yeah.
if you could just keep going with it,
Well, I
you know
take it.
it's gonna be you're gonna be paying for it as you go.
I'll definitely be paying for it if I hire some help, like programmers.
Well, you could just have someone do the rewrite as their first job. So then it's not really changing a whole lot, right? Or not really
No, because I
adding
know
a
I
lot of
know what
new.
the issue is. I don't want to pay them $1,000 to analyze the issue.
No, you don't pay them $1,000 to analyze the issue. You give them a prescriptive, like this is how you fix the issue, and just go and have them go do it.
Yeah,
That's cheap. That's cheap work then, because they don't have to try to figure out what they're doing. It's just follow the script.
yeah, you're right. It's just I want the, and maybe I'm starting to understand businesses um, when I put on the business hat. Like if I'm paying somebody, I want them to deliver new functionality, and I rather hold myself accountable and resolve the technical debt that I created. Like I don't know, my whole thing is I want this thing in the field, and I want to get feedback so that I could add it to my backlog and start solving problems.
I'm
Yeah,
like
man.
off by one on this stupid thing, or not off by one, but I'm like finding something that's like,
Yeah, it's because you didn't use F sharp. That
yeah,
exhaustive pattern matching.
actually, I should probably use F sharp 0, 1. So why is that? Oh, do I just have the values backwards? Well, no, that wouldn't matter.
So right now the last deployed service that is giving me issues is when a courier cashes out so that they deliver their fee they deliver to a whole bunch of customers. They accrue commission for each delivery, and now they want to deposit that commission that they've accrued into their bank account. And so that's the part where I'm running into like uh, a function key that's not mapped to the appropriate um, Azure function. And then once I'm done with that, I need to quickly write, which I mean, most of the code is there. The service for I probably don't even have to write the service. I have to just add some code for them to pick up equipment and then drop it off at a destination, right? So the first is pick up the equipment, drop it off at the beach.
Hmm.
Second is pick up the equipment from the beach, drop it off at a storage location. So the code's there. I just got to write the logic to call that service, and then I could test it in the field.
Hmm.
I want to get this done. I want to get this done, man.
Time to just buckle down and just do it. Then pick like a day, just do it.
You know what? That time was last week when I had Thanksgiving off and Black Friday off, and then I had my
Good to
Saturday and Sunday. But I was so burnt out, I didn't want to look at code.
go.
I didn't want to look at code, man. I just wanted to like just rest. So,
Figured out my issue and finally got that done.
you know, do you think if other animals had the capacity that we have with our minds, do you think we would be this advanced, or do you think that we would be in the Stone Age based on the consequences of what we can do for both good and evil?
If other animals were,
Yeah, so imagine that let's think of an animal that has that are in the billions, just like human beings on this earth, like rodents. Okay, let's imagine that rodents had the mind capacity of human beings, and that they had the capacity or capability to create tools to build things that evolve over time that ultimately benefits society, but also has consequences and can be used to degrade society, whether it's through entertainment or through manifestations of war. Theoretically, they would be competing with us, right? Um, and that's just one example. The question is, because humans have domain over this planet, like we don't really have competition. We're not going against chimps. We're not going against cattle. Like every single life form is at the mercy of us. But the question is, if there were competition, because other life forms on this planet had the same capacity, will we have the infrastructure that we have today? Will we have satellites going around the Earth and going around Mars and Venus, or would we pretty much always be destructive as we try to compete and destroying each other? So
no,
like,
we'd be where we are today. Because I mean,
okay,
that's technically happened. I mean, if you think about it, it's what you're talking about
is us in
is
China, us in Russia, us in
us and ourselves in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you could go back originally to the fact if you wanted to go different species entirely, or near species. I mean, the original humans versus Neanderthals or whatever. But I mean, if you think about it, obviously with different races, there's slight differences between people or types of people, just in the way that our DNA expresses itself or whatever. Um, I mean, we're all different, but it doesn't mean because there's two different groups. There's like obviously war that happened, happened, continues to happen. But there's evolution, and we just kind of build upon each other. Um, I don't know if you would say would one side have genocided the other out, like if it was two completely different species lines, not humans, not branches of Homo sapiens, but like if it
let's say
was like
let's
rats and
say
humans.
let's say octopuses or
Okay.
octopi. What's the plural
Yeah,
form of
octopuses are
octopus?
really smart,
Is it
and
octopi?
dolphins are. Yeah, I think so. Octopi. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean, but they have tentacles, right? So theoretically, they would out of all the other animals that aren't primates, I would think that octopi or octopuses. I don't think octopuses is right for plural. I want to say octopi.
Octopuses.
Uh,
Yeah.
I would think that out of any other creature, they would probably have the ability to build tools, create infrastructure.
Yeah.
Um,
Except for
and
they're limited to the. I suppose they could within the water, but
well,
um,
we've been we've been conditioned to believe that intelligent life that would be our equal or more advanced would have to be terrestrial, and I don't think that's the case at all. It's just
Oh
what
yeah,
we identify with.
yeah. Dolphins are really smart too. I think dolphins and octopuses are extremely smart. But
They're
um,
extremely smart, but they can't, as far as we know, build tools.
yeah, it doesn't. I mean, even if they could, I mean, if they could build tools or they would build tools for any reason, I don't know. Maybe they just don't have a need to build tools. But um, I think what happens is if they started, if a, let's just say a subterranean or a species like that in the water starts to evolve and they become, so advanced that they catch up to humans, and now we're at an equal footing. I think, the deal is that there's probably, yeah, no, I wouldn't see it any more different than being humans against humans, because we'd have to find a way to communicate. When you get over language barriers and you get over communication barriers and you start seeing into to people, most people have empathy towards other people, regardless of the differences that we. I think anytime that if we were to find sentient life, or where we feel like there's some sort of a soul, and even when there's not, or even if we posit a soul in it, it's like most humans are very empathetic. I guess the only case where I could see that happening the other way is if the other side or the other set of creatures isn't empathetic. But then if there's that, but then the opposite would happen, because if they're not empathetic towards humans, then humans would be basically harmed by them. They would just retaliate. Then we just see whoever wins.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It's
to be
it's really no
fair,
more different than two nations. I don't see it any different.
but the thing is, humans, like, we still share 100% of the same DNA, right? Um, we're different from chimps. I thought chimps were like 96% or 98% shared DNA or whatever. Um, and plus, we tend to empathize with mammals. We do, right? Your
Yeah.
dog, I'm sure your dog has exhibited fear to you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is once you feel like once a human posits that there's a soul within something, then it becomes a soul, just whether that's a real thing or like just an imaginary thing or something that we project, right? Then you generally build empathy towards it, as long as you're not like some sort of sociopath. So regardless, if there's octopuses that are completely different DNA than us, they're not even mammals, but they're smart as hell and they're able to build tools and they start evolving, we would we would think of that as like a creature with a soul and begin to empathize with it. The only place where we wouldn't do that is if they flipped around and they started to, or if what they were doing started to threaten our own survival, then obviously it's just war. We do that between humans and humans all the time, or at least we used to. Well, I so we still do. But
I
so
mean,
I don't think it's any
theoretically,
different.
we do that with all animals. They just can't fight back.
Yeah,
We
I don't. Yeah,
deforestation,
well, yeah,
like
I don't. I think that if you just put it down to it, if you had take, I don't know that um, your species matters at all. I think you have a set of intelligent creatures, and you have identifiable subsets within those based on some criteria. Species could be one, but nation, race, um, ethnicity, uh, anything you could think of. Maybe even if we had, you could say the same thing if it was like a cybernetic organism, right? Like a robot. If we had sentient robotic life that was able to do this, they would fall into the same category. Um, People, as long as there's no threatening behavior between the two, there's no need for conflict. We wouldn't wipe each other out.
I think we would, because in regards to Earth, every life form, its core responsibility is to reproduce.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if it weren't for the maybe the Great Revolution, no, industrial. I said Great Revolution. If it weren't for the Industrial Revolution, this may sound ignorant, but would there be a surplus of all species of animals, and would humans have to compete with it now that there's like 7 billion, 7.5 billion of us? And my guess is, I mean, we wiped out a lot of life forms. Like, we have, right? And yeah, is the Earth large enough? Probably, but I don't know. Like, I'm saying all this because your argument is no, we could cohabitat, because why would we want to destroy each other? You know what I'm saying? Because the whole point of politics is struggling for resources, right? I mean, I'm sure there's a better definition, but I think our interests would conflict. Um, the octopi would decide that they've they've built up enough infrastructure, and no, I'm gonna use a here's a very taboo that's going to get me canceled. You ready?
Oh gosh. Okay.
Israel. Okay.
Okay.
There's only so much space within that land,
Yeah.
right? And I think that is a prime example of conflict because
Yeah.
more people
Yeah. You've got a subset.
are
You've got a
happening.
group of people. You've got two subsets of people within it that are somehow identifiable, and then you're competing over a resource. Potentially, one could win, or they have enough empathy towards the non-dominant to at least allow them to. I mean, because you think about it, that conflict, right?
And you say empathy, right? And I don't know anything about Judaism, but religion is huge,
Yeah.
right? I thought that the belief system is like there's a certain religious group that believe that they're the chosen one. Um, I don't know, 12 tribes, whatever that stuff is. I don't know, but I think that like that plays a huge role. Um, and
Well,
it
yeah,
it kind it kind of makes things it kind of I'm trying to be careful how I frame things because I don't fully understand that situation. But
I just speak
in
about it
re-
abstractly. I mean,
in religion in general, if if the political motivation for doing things that may have consequences for others that do not belong to that type of society, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of sanctioned, so it's okay, right? If religion, um, I don't know how to frame this. The Jewish settlements in Israel, I think they're expanding, and I think that Palestinians are being pushed out further and further. And when they retaliate, they're called terrorists. So I'm using that as an example because as long as more and more people start filling up a area or a space, there's going to be conflict, especially when there's groups of people that have rapport with one another
yeah,
that share similarities physically and also their belief systems, aka religiously, and then other people that don't look like them and have a different belief system religiously, then they don't cohabitat as well within a small finite space.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, what you're saying is would eventually, yeah, one would. I guess ultimately one would have to take over the other. I guess the distinction between human sets versus broader sets is that there's the capability of like like any set within the human body can integrate with each other in terms of like we could start to marry each other and or have babies with each other, and basically the lines between the groups could removed. We could restructure city states and nations, and you know um, all of those kind of fake political lines could be redrawn. So we could eventually, all differences are gone and we're down to a single race, a single ethnicity, a single language, a single, country, right? But if we had another completely different incompatible species in terms of that, then now you've got two that can't intermingle. Could you cohabitate um, on like a long enough timeline? I mean, where resources get sparse. I mean, I'm assuming one would always be the dominant, and then they would probably allow the other one to live, at least within small communities. But
It should be an experiment that
yeah,
NASA performs. They should take some Red Army ants with some killer bees and put them in like a
no, it's
three
got to be
cubic
smart
feet
though.
cube. I mean,
Could you model it? I mean, you could maybe model it, but there'd
they
be
build
foregone conclusions based off the model, probably.
both species are very industrial, right? They
Yeah,
build beehives. They build what's that little thing
beaver
that you can?
dams are neat. I just can't imagine that beaver dams are just the most. I don't understand. I can't understand the evolutionary path of a beaver dam. Like a rodent decided one day that if I put a stick in the river, I'm going to be able to be more like biologically adept than this other near creature that doesn't put sticks in the river. And so now I'm going to become even better at putting sticks in the river
Well,
and damming up stuff.
What's the
Like
purpose of a beaver dam?
I I I thought it like backs up the river so that there's enough room for fish, or I can't remember. Um,
Okay.
I don't know. I they have, but there is like a purpose for it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, does it drive fish into their nest and it
I thought it.
just
They build dams across the stream to create pond where they can build a lodge to live in. These ponds provide protection from predators like wolves, coyotes, or mountain lions. Like, if I put enough sticks, like, how did the original like beavers start to put enough sticks where they like did it start by they put like two sticks in and then they found out that there's just a little bit more water and that survived better than the other similar rodents that like I just the evolutionary path of a like humans kind of makes sense to me. The evolutionary path of a beaver doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, I just don't get it. Like how did that how could that I mean to be fair, I guess,
I mean, what
how
about
bees and stuff like
yeah, I
that
was
came
gonna say
about too.
how different is that from bees?
Yeah,
How
just
did a bee know to hover over a flower and then go back to its nest and start creating like hexagons? I don't know.
yeah. So like I don't even know if I'm interested in like the evolutionary track of humans, but the evolutionary track of other animals is fascinating because they're doing things that out of pure instinct that we consider like industrious, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know that like humans aren't really that like or sorry the ones along the human lines if you think about it, um, they seem to do stuff out of intelligence. I mean, unless it is intelligence, and not instinctual to do these things. But bees don't seem that like
I, th-
intelligent.
I think I think we talked about this before. My argument is humans tend to do things for status,
Yeah,
like like whoever has the bigger stick, right? Um,
yeah. The other possibility here is that like we that evolution really didn't happen. We're living in a simulation, and the simulation is providing enough evidence for evolution to fill in the gaps of where it's needed. So like if we focus on human evolution and not other animals evolution, but I don't know, maybe some sort of biologist would be like, oh no, it makes sense because bees came from this other subset of other bees that that started with these other bees that started with these other bees, and originally the first thing in the line of the bee chain is like this one specific creature that's native only to China or something. you know but
How many on an island? Do small islands have apex predators?
Yeah, wouldn't they?
Name one.
The Fusa on Madagascar.
I because I'm a geek. I already know what a fusca. I know what that animal is, right? Um, okay.
I
I
don't
mean,
know what it would be on Australia,
it only weighs like
but if you think about it,
what? It only weighs like 20 pounds,
yeah,
but
every
okay.
has an
It's an
apex
apex
predator
predator.
on it, right? Like, so what would it be in North America? Would be apex predators would be grizzly bear,
The
maybe
reason
mountain lion.
for North America, I think it would be a grizzly bear.
Yeah, I
Um,
assume a grizzly bear could take out a mountain lion. Although, because of their packs, I mean, timber wolves are actually in a pack are very strong. I wonder if they could take out a grizzly bear in not individually, but because they live in a pack society.
yeah.
I wonder what those.
The reason why I ask is because if we're talking about limited space and what's the consequences when you have different life forms that are still reproducing, I was trying to think of like what islands have like an apex predator or are most islands like I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out like what that looks like. So Hawaii I don't think had any significant life forms. I thought everything was brought over there.
Yeah,
Uh
likely. So Australia's another one you could think about. The dingo.
I mean there's some islands that just have snakes all over the place. Komodo dragon. Okay, that's Galapagos. That's an example.
Yeah, I think
I don't even know what they eat. What else lives on Galapagos Islands outside of the Komodo dragon that they actually feed off of? I mean, I'm sure they have to have like some form of like deer or whatever you call it, antelope. I don't know what they have.
I don't know. There's so in New Zealand the apex predator was the Host eagle apparently. Was the
A bird?
yeah, Host eagle. Wow, that's a huge eagle. I don't
When
know if
did
it's
it?
still alive.
Probably not.
It might be one of these because yeah, there's no like new pictures of them. They're all illustrations. Um, is an
Yeah.
extinct species of eagle that lived on the southern part of New Zealand. My gosh, it was huge though. Like if you look at the picture next to a human, it's a
And then
pretty big bird.
octopi, they probably think that
It was the
like
biggest eagle ever.
they probably think that the land is outer space, right? They'll like
Holy
why
crap!
would it they? What you
Those
saying
eagles were
something?
like bigger than humans. Dude, you should look up the Host eagle. It's freaking nuts.
You send me a link.
Or it's HAAST eagle or Host.
HAEST.
HAAST. And then it's like possessive Host's eagle.
Oh, they're still alive.
No, they're extinct. But man, they were huge when they were alive. Jeez, they were huge. They could like
Oh,
eat a
yeah.
freaking ostrich. But yeah, apparently they were the apex predator of New Zealand. So yeah, something always becomes the apex, right? But then if the apex kills off too much, they begin to die. So they have to, yeah, that's all just the natural balance of things.
And weren't there like is there's how does this work? Neanderthals was one form, but there okay, Neanderthals weren't considered human, or were they? Were they a species of human or they were just Neanderthals and we're humans? Because I thought they were
They
like two
weren't
different.
humans.
My
They're two different.
understanding, yeah, there is a hominoid and a Neanderthal two different things, or a hominoid is like the base class. I,
I think humanoid is a type, like a form of a creature.
or is that a Homo sapien? Like we're all Homo
Homo
sapiens.
sapien is what we are, right? Um,
Like at what point did Neanderthals get what? Did we just start making love to Neanderthals and we just started creating? Are we all like part Neanderthals and part? I need to watch Discovery
yes,
Channel again.
there's like we have like cross Neanderthal, whatever. There's actually, if you do 23andMe, it'll tell you how much like your Neanderthal influence you have in you.
Yeah, but then it's like I thought historically, like we all derived from Africa, which means that Neanderthals derived from Africa, or no? Or are we just talking about Like
I don't know. I
I
don't
thought
know.
Neanderthals were like the Netherlands or something.
So the top, okay, you're right. So the top branch is the hominoids and comma ape, and then that goes to the branching goes to the gibbons, and then the hominidae, homids, great apes. Then it branches from there into orangutans, and then hominines. Then it branches from there into gorillas, and then hominins. Then it branches from there to chimpanzees, and then humans, basically.
Hold on,
And
where did Neanderthals go?
there's difference between the bonobos and the chimpanzees.
I'd
Here, let
rather
me
be a
just share this.
I'd rather
I'll
be a
just
bonobo. They spend their time making love and orgies, and chimps just go to war all the time. I was at the zoo last weekend.
let me share this.
Oh yeah, this is what we talk about in our masterminds.
Here's that chaining of evolution. So the
Well, you sent
hominidae,
it. You sent it in Twitter or something. Where did
or
you send
no,
it?
I'm sharing, screen sharing.
Oh shoot. Oh, okay, hold on. All right.
There. So you've got hominin I have homino idea. No idea. I'll just call this the no idea, which is like the top level of this branch. And then
Hominodia.
what's a gibbon again? Gibbons. Okay, so this is
Hominodia.
like one branch of that, the gibbon. And then you've got the hominidae, which then branches off into these two. Um, and then hominini and gorillas, which are two branches. Then from there, it's the panini or panina and hominina. And then
I
Homo
wonder if
sapiens.
aliens had their own forms of evolution, where they had their own forms of dinosaurs and phi eagles or whatever that thing was.
I don't know. I don't know if they show like, oh man, cannibalism. That's crazy. Uh,
Is it?
evolution.
You know, the skull on the left hand side, bottom left, man, he got murked.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, he got murked.
Oh, they don't have like a nice little branch. So you'd have to read through all of this stuff.
I mean, hold on, scroll back up. Is that a perfect circle
Where?
where he got? I, I wonder if the researchers cut that out.
Oh, it could be. I mean, it could be that it was a spear or something too.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
is the
know.
sphere really going to make a circle like that?
I don't
Okay.
know.
I would think a spear is more like a shank attached to a stick. It's not going to create a circle. That's just what we see in movies.
Yeah. Although maybe there's like a plate there that that formed that fell out where there's lines that are
I,
soft.
I was watching Apocalypto, or what's that Mel Gibson movie?
I think it's
Apocalypto, right?
Apocalypto.
Yeah, that movie was. I wonder how much of that was true. I would not want to be an Aztec or a Mayan or whatever those people were.
Yeah, he got in a lot of trouble for this movie because they're like, "Oh, this is racist. It wasn't
This is
that way."
not racist at
But
all.
then he's like, "No, but and then I don't know what to believe because Mel Gibson's like, "No, I did the research, and this is like, there's a lot of historical inaccuracies about the timing and all of that. So it's not. I don't think it's supposed to be historical fiction, like historically accurate
Oh, you're talking about when the
fiction.
white man came over at the end of the movie?
Well, that part got a little bit bad too, but I took that more as not as more of a
Shots at the
like,
conquistadors.
yeah. Well, I mean, because that was the new biggest threat to these people, where there was no like, I thought I didn't take it as being any sort of message about, oh, like, here comes the white saviors or anything, although some people I think took it that way.
No, it was.
It
I
was
took it
like,
as here's the conquistadors with their white Jesus coming on boats. And I
yeah,
mean, in the movie, they had already showed that little girl that had like the measles or chicken pox, smallpox, whatever that was. So they had already had contact with them, and
yeah,
then more of them came.
yeah, and I think that yeah, I don't know if there was a meaning behind any of it other than to kind of talk about, potentially, it was to talk about how meaningless the little conflicts were between tribes when you have these bigger picture problems that come, which just creates bigger tribal problems when
I
you
mean,
think about
I would say
nations as
that
being tribes. But
that's parallel today. I mean, we saw that
yeah,
with Iraq.
yeah, this was a cool movie though. I thought it was really cool.
The different sects killing off each other, and the United States sweeps them up, or the United States military sweeps them up at the end.
What was that one again? The
In Iraq, when they had the
Oh,
sectarian violence, and the different sects were basically having death squads killing each other, and I'm sure that other governments probably dressed up as some of those death squads to pose as them or impersonate them, and even serve more as a catalyst for sectarian violence. And then after they killed each other off enough, the military just swept everything else up and killed off the rest of them.
yes.
Didn't I mean United States? I thought the United States did that with Russia and Germany, right? I thought they waited for Russia and Germany to go longer and longer in their battles until Russia was getting decimated. Well, both sides were getting decimated, and then the United States came in full force and cleaned up the rest of Germany, and then that was my understanding.
You
It
mean in
was
World War II?
yeah, World War II.
Yeah, I mean the Soviets did the bulk of defeating the German mainland, I believe, and then
Yeah,
yeah,
at great cost. And then the United States came full and fresh, and then they started creating boundaries after everything was all over, with the United States being favored.
were the Soviets in Japan, and so I
They
know,
they
were
declared
they
war on Japan, and
okay
they
because they
had
were all part of the Allies then.
they occupied some islands in Japan.
Yeah, I know that like Russia and Japan historically had I believe they had historically had wars against each other. Were
Before World
never
War
really
II.
allies. Yeah.
Here's a trivia. Did you know that um, there were dogfights between Cuba and
Oh yeah, there were Russo-Japanese war. There was a whole Russo-Japanese war in 1904.
I was going to say
Sorry, go ahead.
there were dogfights between Cuba and some northern African country. I forgot which one. Did you even know that Cuba used to get into dogfights with
With
with with an African country?
no.
Yeah,
How? Like, did they send boats over? I don't.
I mean it was a proxy war.
Okay.
Uh,
That must have been.
it wasn't boats; it was only jets.
Oh,
And
so this is like
same thing with Russia.
recent.
Russia had got into dog. No, it wasn't recent. This was during the Cold War. Russia has got into dogfights with Israel,
The
and
Cuban intervention in Angola.
yeah,
Uh,
and
Cuba
Russia
sent combat troops to the communist-aligned People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola. Huh. So they just went. All right. That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't have any historical knowledge of this conflict.
Neither did I. I came up on it like a couple months ago.
You know what? Always uh, kind of teed me off about European history is when we talk about it was kind of like in the decline of Poland. But if you look back at the peak of the Polish-Lithuanian Empire, it was actually like a really big empire at one time. Like they actually occupied a lot of Russia and a lot of they were like just as like big or at odds with like the Holy Roman Empire.
Never knew.
Yeah, the Commonwealth of
I still don't know where my
but
last name comes from. I assume it's Jewish, but I have no clue which Europeans were slave masters of my descendants or ancestors, shall I say?
well, Nimrod apparently means great hunter. Um,
But in where is that defined at? In what area of the world?
see here, Nimrod family history.
Because when I go like when I go on Facebook and I search Nimrod, like a lot of Israelis show up.
Nimrod's surname origin. The meaning of the surname is not listed. Um, there's actually a fair amount of Nimrods in the United States. Obviously, apparently there's actually a fair amount in
The Midwest.
Tanzania and South
Oh,
Africa, but that doesn't mean anything.
I was saying my
Um,
family takes up Ohio.
Nimrod. Well, it's a biblical figure, but um,
By the way, I can't consistently hit 4 miles. Like yesterday morning, I did 3 miles and I tapped out. It's weird because sometimes I could do 4 miles, and then other times I'm like, man, three is enough. I'm trying to build a. I want
is
four
your
miles a
knee
week.
mostly,
Not,
or is it?
not yesterday. Yesterday it was just I could have pushed myself, but I had enough. If that makes any sense. Like I, if I really wanted to, I could have knocked it out. I just wasn't motivated enough, and I felt like the reward wasn't there
Yeah,
to do another like maybe 6 or 7 minutes of running.
yeah. Maybe you should give it like a couple days and then try
I
to do
did. I took like 5 days.
oh, I was gonna say try to do like a
I took the holiday weekend.
really long run, but I don't know. I ran twice earlier this week. I was gonna run Thursday, but then I got busy with work and stuff and
And
didn't
you're
do it.
not getting
So
sick running in the cold. You've been able to manage all that.
so far, it hasn't been too cold.
Because I would
You know,
imagine like
thirty and
your
40
nose
isn't
would be
bad.
running and snot everywhere.
Yeah. Um, no, not at this temperature yet. It's more of the dryness probably gets you than anything. It's definitely not as pleasant to run in the winter than as it is in the summer, um, I gotta keep up. Like if I'm gonna run another half marathon and then a full marathon, if I don't like at least maintain until like March and then get really heavy back in it, I'm gonna be like SOL for those things. But I'm happy I signed up for that one at the end of April, the half marathon, because if I if I didn't do that, then I'd like that'll force me to get back into gear 2 months, or actually a month before I have to do the full one. So
It's weird how like some days I can knock it off without being mentally tortured, and then other days it's like, or majority of days it's like, oh God, oh how much longer? Oh, I don't know. The human mind is weird, man. I mean, I definitely made progress. Before I would just run 2 miles and that was it. Now, I mean, now I'm doing like three, and I'm doing all this like in the sand, right, barefoot. So it should count somewhere.
oh, neat! I didn't realize you're doing it barefoot running.
I run barefoot on the beach,
Doesn't
making
the
sure.
sand like get your? Well, I suppose your feet probably used to it. I'd
What?
assume that my feet would get all. If I was running in the sand, my feet would get all chewed up by the sand. But
Nah, it'll get chewed up if it's like a 100-degree day. Then you get burned and you get blisters.
hmm.
Um, but no, the only thing I try to make sure I the only thing I'm conscientious about is stepping on a syringe or a used condom. You won't believe how many used condoms are on the beach. You won't. I see it every day.
That's gross, man.
Why do people want to have butt sex on the beach as their like preferred location? I don't know, but that's the part that annoys me.
Yeah, I think I've maybe have run across one or two just randomly. Like it's weird, like if you find it along a random street somewheres, like because I've run across that just randomly in like a ditch or like a side, like
I'm like,
somebody like
why?
take that off and throw it out the window. I don't like
Yeah, it's
they're
like out
driving
of all.
along. Oh, I'm just gonna dispose of this in the middle of the street. Why not?
Yeah, I'm like, out of all the places you could dispose of this, the toilet, the trash can, you no,
Buried in the
you
backyard,
went
put
into
it
a
in the
public
fireplace.
place or a public trail or the beach, and you say, you know what? I'm just gonna get rid of this like it's a stick of gum that I just chewed up. Like that's the
Yeah,
ultimate disrespect, man. Of there
didn't
should be
was
a special like that's not littering. That's like blasphemy. Like that there should be like that should be a felony to dispose of used rubber in public, like on a sidewalk or on a trail or on the beach. It drives me nuts. And like, yeah, I run barefoot, and it's like I try to avoid not stepping on them.
um that reminded me when you said threw it away like a stick of gum. Have you you've ever watched the movie Coneheads?
Like, not enough to remember. I mean, it was so long ago since I saw that movie.
Here, 1 second. Shoot you this. I'm gonna shoot you a link. I always thought that was kind of funny.
Where there's a scene. Hold up.
Yeah, Coneheads chewing gum. I sent you in the link to a YouTube video in private chat.
I didn't see that part.
Yeah,
I didn't know Sinbad was in that movie.
yeah. I don't recall him being in that movie either, but apparently he was.
Uh, all right, I'm tapping out.
You do this Advent of Code ever?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think I volunteered and I didn't do anything because
Yeah.
they have a big I, the admin of code always relate to F sharp to the F sharp community, but it's pretty much every language.
Yeah, yeah, it's every language. I was actually thinking I should switch off of C sharp and start rewrite all of these in Elixir or F sharp,
My
and
phone's
then
been blowing up.
try to do more.
My phone's been blowing up the last 2 days because some some shop is trying to build a team here in the states of F sharp developers.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
it's good that you have options if something were to go south. So
I don't know what they're going to pay, but oh yeah, I'm getting my vehicle done this weekend. I'm probably going to get robbed within the next like 2 3 months.
because it's yeah, you get like a break in because it's a nice vehicle.
Got no, well, I I got I'm putting in so much money into my sound system. That's the reason why I'm probably going to get robbed.
I got robbed
Like,
once in high school. I had like two 15-inch subwoofers, and I was stupid enough to leave my car in the parking lot of the high school, and I had like a broken passenger door that just had like some really cheap plexiglass on it or something like that, or acrylic glass. And no, the robbers, instead of breaking through that side, broke through my other window that had a full glass window. They weren't even kind enough to just break through the other side where it would have been easier and
uh,
wouldn't have actually further damaged the car. So
well, I
that
meant
car was ghetto, man. After
when I
it was
say
all
robbed, I
messed
meant
up.
carjacked. But uh, the other thing with newer vehicles is it that easy to just? I guess it is. I mean, the alarm will go off now with newer vehicles. I assume you didn't have a car alarm, right?
No, no, this was a '92 Mazda Protege.
Yeah. So I got two Soliberic um, Q Series 12s. I have a 2500-watt kicker amp. That's a mono kicker amp. That's 2500 watts. And I got like two Alpine 6 channel amps for my door speakers. Like uh, uh, any street I go down is gonna be a block party. So yeah, so I don't expect my vehicle to make it that long before I get drug out of it.
Yeah, well, guess that's why you get insurance. So
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna buy a decibel meter after they finish it, and I would imagine I would imagine that I'm probably hitting like I expect to hit like 130 decibels, like at least. I know I won't be at 150. But I'm expecting 130.
so after you get your car, then you'll come onto these masterminds, and you'll be like, "Oh, how you doing?" I'll say, "I'm good," and you'll be like, "What?" Uh,
I mean, like I don't I don't plan on like beating like the every single time I get in the car. It's just like it's just like a really fast car, like having something that's like 600, 700 horsepower. It's just nice to have it on tap, you know? So if you ever like if someone happens to roll up on you at a stoplight and they're in a nice car and they're revving their engine, it's nice to like just all right, let me go ahead and handle this real fast. Put this person in his place. And it's the same thing if like you go on the strip and people think they're doing it and they're enjoying themselves and they're enjoying their status and you're like, nah, F that. Like you pull up on them, you open up the car doors and you just drown out whatever they had. You just drown it out. Like I like doing that. I'm very competitive.
nice. Yeah.
Uh, all right, well, good stuff.
Cool.
My last day, and then the weekend. So we'll catch up. See you.
Cheers. Bye.